but we just placed, I don't even know how many. What's 25 times, or 20, a lot. We placed 12 levels of ladies and 3 levels of men.
Correct.
Here we go. Morning of the first day of the 2005 Summer Intensive. I haven't had my coffee yet, but I am already so excited because today we place everybody. Okay, so for breakfast, I'm having leftover pancakes, and this is how I do it. I heat them in my Tupperware thing. Look at this. And you steam it. You see that?
Good morning,
And then they're like soft.
Good morning, my dear universe. Here comes a nice day.
Okay, the first stop on the way to placement class has got to be Dunkin', because you know the teachers need a little sugar to be excited and have the energy for the students. Rock School for Dance, I got my donuts and we're heading in, placement day. And here she is, the woman who makes it all happen.
Good morning.
Melissa Chassis. It's spelled like chassé, but it's actually chassis, like a car. And she was the one that actually had the idea to do this 5-week program and spread it between the 2 locations. So we owe everything to Melissa. We're trying to figure out how we let the kids know what level they're in. And last year what we did is we did an alphabetized list with all of the students and then all of their levels, but that means they could see what levels other kids were in. And Melissa just came up with this great idea. What's the idea, Melissa? Go ahead and share it.
So the level placement is recorded on the Airtable platform, which is a kind of a cross between a spreadsheet and a database. And we can automate emails so that the students receive their levels individually and therefore don't have access to.
So it's privatized. And then last year what we did is post it so everybody could see, but then you would see, well, my friend is in this and I'm in that. Everyone gets their own email, and if they forget, they can come to the front desk and we'll have a master list, and then they can look at the master list. Isn't that a good idea? Do I love my team? They make me better. But now the magic starts. We are heading upstairs for the first placement group, and you can see that we have a lot of stairs to climb. So here we go. We're going to start climbing stairs.
Up the mountain, steep and high. Every step a struggle, a heavy sigh. Rocks
And over here we have Valentina. And Valentina is new to the Rock School. She's only been here for more than 3 decades and is the most amazing pianist and knows more about ballet than any of us. So we are delighted to have her here with us. Guess what? Group 3. Here we go. We still have our amazing pianist, Valentina. 3rd class today. She's amazing. So much talent, I can't stand it. It's so exciting. My favorite day of the year. Our 4th group of ladies, an incredibly advanced and amazing group of young dancers. We have our remarkable team, Elise Waichoff, our registrar, who's been with me all day through this process, Natalia Ziegler, who is former soloist with Bolshoi Ballet, teaching the class. Here is our lead pianist, Asya Haken, who oversees all of our accompanists in the school and does an amazing job. Okay, we made it to the end of the day. This is placement class 5, and as you can see, it's all the boys. Again, with our amazing accompanist, Asya Haken. And we got all these amazing young men that we have to place. And we are super excited to see them dance. You're on camera. Dun, dun, dun. And now we have to look at everybody and decide what level they're in. And you know, it's very stressful for us. I know it's stressful for the students, but it's also stressful for the teachers. Okay, so here we are now in Westchester, and look who's with me, Etienne Diaz, the director of Rock School Westchester, and he just came back from...
Singapore. Well, I was in Malaysia, but I flew from Singapore.
So talk about that. What were you doing in Singapore and Malaysia?
I was teaching. I was adjudicating a competition in Singapore the first couple of days, and then I went to Malaysia for a different competition. So I was teaching classes, and I was just sharing how for the first time I had to teach a lot of little ones. So that was very new to me, but I enjoyed very much.
So what's the difference between teaching little ones and teaching older ones?
Patience. Para 7, do first position, and a badminton do 1, plié, déplié, and back, plié, retendu, plié, use your arm in first, open arm as you bring it down, grand plié,
Here we are, Melissa Stafford and I. Melissa, of course, is the Chief Artistic Officer at the Rock School. And how long have you been at this job?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
And we've worked together for longer than 3 years. And we're just going to leave it at that, because I think when you reach a certain age, you don't want to talk too much about how long you've worked together. However, we met at a Carlisle Project Choreographic Institute.
Yeah.
Let's not say the year.
So I am a CPYB alumni, and I was in college and I wanted to pursue choreography, so I got invited to do that.
So they invited you into it. I think I actually had to apply.
Yeah.
And you still did the best piece. I remember what was so great about your choreography is you had some uneven number. I don't remember if it was a 7 or 9 or whatever it was. And you were able to continuously rearrange. So at moments you had a solo girl, and then at moments it was like an even corps de ballet. And you did this interesting back and forth because you wanted a full corps, but then you also wanted the solo moments. The piece that I did had a very young Ashley Bowder as the lead.
Yes, yes.
And again, because I don't want to tell how long ago it was, but Ashley was a teenager, and it was before she went to SAB. And I remember that in the placement class, she did an entrechouette. So of course I had to put the entrechouette into my choreography.
Yeah, she was a phenomenal dancer, young.
Yeah, she was super strong. It was her and the 2 boys. But anyway, and I used Beethoven music. I wonder if I could ever find that. Do you have your thing on video somewhere?
I do have it on VHS, which is probably dating us.
We're not. Yeah, we're trying to avoid that whole like anything that can like put a date and time. So anyway, we met there, and then years later, I was the director of the Orlando Ballet School, and we were approached to open a school in Tampa, and I reached out to Melissa, and she came and led what is now Next Generation Ballet. And so she and I were founded together Next Generation Ballet, but we just placed, I don't even know how many. What's 25 times, or 20, a lot. We placed 12 levels of ladies and 3 levels of men.
Correct.
Times about 20 to 23.
Yeah.
So someone out there, maybe you can comment on who's a good math person. We're recording on my phone, and normally I would take my phone out and open the calculator to figure it out, but it was a lot of kids. But before that, do you want to just talk about the process that you and I do? Because I feel like we are in such kismet on how we assess students for a pre-placement. Do you want to just talk a little bit about the pre-placement process?
we take notes when the students audition, and we're taking pretty good notes about their strengths and some areas that they are needing to work on. So we may have some kids who have lovely flexibility and they're working on getting control. And then we may have some other kids who are really quick at and strong at jumps and quick work and then need to work on flexibility. So we're making those notes and then making sort of a guess of where we think they might be grouped. And then we compile all that information. We sit in like a 3-hour meeting and go name by name.
And what I love, and I think we can be honest, when we don't have enough information, what are some of the other factors that you look at?
So we look at like their school, how many hours a week they're training in ballet, some of the other summer program opportunities they've had. Some of the big ones with really structured programs mean, hey, they can get through that. They're pretty strong. We look at their age a little bit, although there's always outliers with age. But it would be unlikely to put a 10-year-old in level 6, so we take that into consideration a little bit as well.
And we look at the other schools. And then you mentioned other summer programs, which is also a good tell because, I mean, why is that so helpful?
Well, so you know that to get accepted to those programs, that they've reached a certain level of attainment already. And then if they've successfully completed those, then they've gotten a certain level of training throughout that program.
First became a school director, I brought in one of your teachers and one of my friends, Melinda Howe, to talk to me about curriculum and really structuring a school from the bottom up. And I really want to spend more time in the future talking to you about that years, but more is more. So I always say if you do, 50 crunches versus 10 crunches, 50 is going to make your stomach stronger, right? And that's also something we look at in terms of the number of classes, the number of point classes. Do you want to talk a little bit about that when we're assessing where to, this is all pre-placement. We haven't even really taken that second look. We're just trying to lump them in groups so that when we place them later, it's a little easier.
Yeah, and some kids are in programs where they do 3 hours of ballet, 3 hours of contemporary, or lyrical, jazz, tap, which is great. They're very well-rounded, but then they have less time practicing their ballet vocabulary throughout their week. And then we look at other kids maybe coming in and they're taking 12 hours of just ballet.
But then we place them in these groupings, and then pretty much I would say from each grouping of dancers, we're then looking at between generally 2 to 3 levels.
Yeah. So we break down all those kids into 5 groups that have about 40 dancers in them in Philadelphia, a little bit smaller at our Westchester campus. And I mean, there's always 1 or 2 that we're like, oh, that's a little different than we guessed based on our limited information. But pretty much they come in kind of where we expect them to be. And it makes it much easier to put them into groups where they're going to be challenged.
It matters where you train. It matters how much you train. Because again, when we bring them in for the second look, we're very open-minded. And to your point, sometimes we're really off. I mean, sometimes we have placed a child in, I'm going to make up something like group 1 that ends up really they should have been in group 4. So we're basically breaking each group in half, sometimes into thirds. And then somebody teaches the class and we rotate who teaches, and we all have a clipboard and we're kind of writing where we assess. And then after the kids leave the room.
Yeah, I mean, we start with you because you're the director.
It's nice. It's good to be the king.
Yeah. So Peter goes through and he's kind of done his, X or Y or whatever we're dividing the groups into. And then we go through and sometimes we'll have different opinions and we talk about advocating for one position or the other.
10 or 15% of any class that we might have some differing of opinion.
Right.
The vast majority, 85% of the students where we just agree. And then this one, I think she should go up. I think she should go down. Something like that.
Right. And a lot of times it's in a case where, because we're, working with growing humans, sometimes a kid has had a growth spurt between when we saw them in the audition and they show up for the summer.
And this is where I appreciate my team. And I appreciate a team that's better than me. The team will catch things that I don't catch and really pertinent information and take notes on that.
A lot of it is how the student appears to be taking correction in class and
Exactly.
presenting themselves in class, even if it looks like it's unfamiliar to them. So they may be asked to strike the frappe and they're not used to striking the frappe, but they're trying, and you can see that they're going to pick it up with a few attempts. Or, that they're practicing. One of the boys, I was so impressed with him. He was practicing on the side because he was young. He was the youngest one in the room and he didn't know a step. So he was trying to figure it out on the side before he tried it again. And I thought, oh, that's a smart kid. That's one who's really going to improve quickly throughout the summer while he's here.
We're really not looking at raw physical potential. We're really looking at intellectual, cognitive, behavioral issues that will enable them to do well with material that might be unfamiliar to them.
Right. And I think also not shrinking back away from something, but
Yeah.
having a little bit of all right, I'm going to try it even if I get it wrong. Usually that's a kid that you throw them in the deep end, they can kind of swim, versus somebody that may need a more methodical, calm, week by week building kind of approach to make them feel confident in class.
So we did the 2 days of placement, and you and I just started teaching today. Don't tell me what level you taught, but have you taught a technique yet?
I did.
So did
9
you,
a.m. this morning.
any outliers?
Not so far.
Yeah, me neither.
There's a little bit of a range in age in the group that I taught, but the ones that were younger were all able to really follow along.
The teachers will come to me and say, I'm going to make up a name. Jane Smith really should move up a level. She's stronger. But I would say that happens, if we're looking at, 300 to 400 students, and with the whole program, over 500 students, less than 5.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe 5.
And last summer, we even had a kid that we had kind of put forward because we saw the determination and ability to pick up. And then she came to me after point class and said, I don't think I've had enough point for this level. And we actually talked to her and her mom, and we decided, we're going to back her up.
Isn't that great? I just love when kids are that way.
Yeah. But again, that was that's once in the 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. I have often regretted, even during the school year, putting a kid forward. I've never regretted holding somebody back, not once.
No, because they actually, when they get to that next level, they're so much better prepared and their muscle memory is just better through doing the repetition.
Because I do think we have parents and family that they see great aptitude in their children and think, oh, I know she's 3, but she really, can clap to the beat. And, there's these cognitive things that show she's advanced for her age at 3. Can she join a class of 4-year-olds? And why do we think that's not a good idea?
Well, human development is not linear. And when they may be ahead right now, and then they might just get to that milestone sooner and then plateau. All the other kids their age catch up, and then they're just right with them.
Yeah, and I just feel like it's better to be in the middle and being pushed than being at the back of the class feeling like you're overwhelmed. I think that with mathematics, with language, with sort of anything, I remember that I switched high schools because I was at a public high school on Long Island, and then I went to the professional children's school to finish out my time at SAB. I was at SAB for a long time, but at the end I went to PCS. And there was not a lot of French, and I was like an A student. I mean, I'll be honest, but French was always hard for me, and there wasn't a lot of French students at PCS. It's a very small school. I think there were 30 in my graduating class. So they put me in this very advanced French class, and I was so overwhelmed. I remember we read a mystery. I had no idea who done it. I didn't even know who got killed. I don't know what happened. I don't know what the murder weapon was. It was like a Perot or something. And it really turned me off to language because I felt like and I remember saying, I don't think I'm ready for this, but they were like, oh no, you'll be fine. It's a small class. Just jump in, you'll figure it out. And I didn't, because I think it was French 4 and I really needed to be in French 3.
You were missing a chunk of material.
Yeah, I really was, and I just felt overwhelmed, and then I felt discouraged because it was very frustrating for me to feel like the worst one in the class. I didn't want to talk, but you and I have both so often watched recital dances with our ballet division students, and you see one student who's turning the other direction, who's looking to the side, and I'll always say, "How old is that one?" And I guarantee they're always one of those borderline birthdays where they're the total younger end of the class. So it's not that the child has less ability. It's not that the child is less intelligent. It's simply they're younger, at that age, it makes such a huge difference. And if there's a question between pushing forward and holding back, it's always going to be in the child's best interest to hold back. Well, that tells you a little bit about our leveling and how we did it. Thank you for joining us. Follow us on social media. The Rock School is on Instagram. We're on Facebook. And you can see some of the information in the links below. Please smash the like button and follow us for more. Thanks.
Thanks.